You should have left long ago.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. And if this is your first time here, you're very welcome. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the love and support. You are the real MVPs. Before we begin, let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our stories. Now, today's story is not just a story. It is one that will shake you. It is about a woman who suffered in silence, supported her husband through poverty, only to be discarded when success finally came. She was mocked, she was cheated on, she was chased out with 2 innocent children. But what her husband didn't know was that he had made the biggest mistake of his life. Please listen carefully. This is the story of Akunna. Akunna's life in Mike's house was not just difficult. It was a slow, calculated stripping away of dignity, layer by painful layer. In the first year of their marriage, she had still been called my wife, said with pride when visitors came. By the 3rd year, she became Akunna, bring water, spoken without eye contact. By the 7th year, she was no longer addressed at all, only summoned with sharp coughs, angry knocks on doors, or insults thrown casually like trash on the roadside. She woke before dawn every day, not because she was lazy, but because the house demanded it. She cooked, cleaned, washed, ironed, cared for the children, attended to Mike's mother when she visited, endured the snide remarks of his sisters, and still went to bed with her bones aching and her heart hollow. Mike never noticed. To him, Akunna was a background object, like furniture, useful but invisible. When he spoke to her, it was often to remind her of how lucky she was that he married her at all, an orphan with no family, no connections, no value. He called her names with ease: stupid, useless, burden, words that sank into her chest and stayed there, fermenting into silent tears she cried only at night. The neighbors assumed she was weak. The church women pitied her. No one knew that once upon a time, Akunna had laughed loudly, dreamed wildly, and believed fiercely in love. No one knew that this quiet woman scrubbing floors had once stood at the top of her graduating class, brilliance shining from her eyes. And certainly, no one imagined that the hands washing plates once held a future so powerful it could shake nations. 7 years ago, Akunna didn't walk into Mike's life as a beggar. She entered it as a woman carrying invisible scars and an iron determination to start over. After her father disowned her, the fall had been brutal. She had loved recklessly, trusted foolishly, and paid dearly for it. Pregnant, abandoned, and ashamed, she had nearly died during childbirth, losing the baby that might have anchored her to hope. A stranger, a good Samaritan whose name she never learnt, rushed her to a hospital, paid her bills, and disappeared from her life like an angel who knew his job was done. With no home to return to and pride too wounded to beg forgiveness, Akunna erased herself. She changed her name, buried her past, and promised never to depend on anyone again. She took odd jobs, cleaning offices, tutoring children, coding her freelance projects late at night, using the AI knowledge she had worked hard to earn in school. When she met Mike, he was charming in that hungry, ambitious way young men have when they know they want more from life but don't know how to get it. She believed his kindness because she wanted to. When she told him she was an orphan, he held her hands and swore he would be her family. When she cried about her past, he promised to protect her. Love to Akunna sounded like safety then. She didn't tell him about her degree, her brilliance, or her former life because she wanted peace, not admiration. She wanted a home, not power. And when Mike struggled financially, she carried them both without complaint, working 3 jobs while he went to school, paying fees she could barely afford, cooking food she sometimes skipped so he could eat. She thought marriage was partnership. She did not know it would become servitude. The turning point was subtle, almost invisible at first. Mike graduated. He got a job, an impressive one with a multinational firm that promised growth, prestige, and money. Akunna didn't know the company belonged to her father's conglomerate, operating under layers of subsidiaries and international branding. All she knew was that her sacrifices had finally borne fruit. But success changed Mike the way hunger changes a stray dog, suddenly aggressive, territorial, ashamed of where it once scavenged. He started dressing better, speaking differently, correcting Akunna's grammar in public, flinching when she wore clothes he deemed too simple. His family noticed the shift and followed suit. His mother began to complain about Akunna's cooking. His sisters whispered about how Mike married down. And Mike, instead of defending his wife, absorbed their poison eagerly. He started coming home late, smelling of expensive perfume and arrogance. When Akunna confronted him gently, he laughed cruelly and asked who she thought she was to question him. The secretary came next, young, polished, ambitious, everything Akunna was no longer allowed to be. Mike didn't even hide it well. He simply stopped caring. When Akunna cried, he called her dramatic. When she begged, he called her desperate. The man she built was now embarrassed by the foundation that held him up. And in his mind, the easiest way to erase his past poverty was to erase the woman who had stood beside him. The day Mike chased Akunna out of the house was not dramatic in the way movies portray betrayal. There were no screams, no shattered glass, no dramatic confessions. It was worse, cold, efficient, and humiliating. He packed her clothes into old boxes, told her she was no longer fit to be his wife, and accused her of holding him back. His children stood behind her, confused, clutching her wrapper as though sensing the earth shifting beneath them. Mike spoke of new beginnings, of image, of society. He said he had outgrown her. He said men like him could not be tied to women like her. Akunna listened quietly, something inside her finally breaking cleanly in two. She didn't beg, she didn't curse. She simply gathered her children, lifted her head, and walked away from the house she had bled to build. That night, as she slept on a borrowed mattress in a friend's one-room apartment, she stared at the ceiling and realized something terrifying and liberating all at once. She had lost everything, and therefore had nothing left to fear. Somewhere far away, a powerful man lay awake in regret, replaying the moments he disowned his only daughter. He didn't know she was alive. He didn't know she was suffering. But guilt has a voice, and it had begun to speak loudly in his heart. In a mansion many miles away, Akunna's father sat surrounded by wealth that suddenly felt meaningless. Time had softened his anger, but sharpened his regret. The reckless girl he once cast out had haunted him for years, appearing in dreams, in moments of silence, in the spaces between business meetings and boardroom victories. He had searched before, half-heartedly at first, then desperately. Private detectives had traced dead ends, false names, changed documents, erased trails. Akunna had disappeared too well. But persistence is a language powerful men understand fluently. Slowly, clues began to surface. A hospital record here, a freelance contract there, whispers of a woman too intelligent for the life she lived. The day a photograph landed on his desk, a tired but unmistakable face, holding 2 children, he broke down and wept like a man who had lost and found his soul at the same time. He didn't storm into her life. He didn't announce himself. He watched. He learned. He saw her suffering, her humiliation, her quiet strength. And in that moment, regret hardened into resolution. His daughter will never kneel again. Those who broke her will not escape untouched. But revenge, he knew, was a dish best served cold and intelligently. Akunna did not rush into her father's arms when he finally stood before her. Pain does not dissolve simply because regret knocks on the door wearing wealth and tears.
when the private detectives traced her to that modest apartment and her father came quietly, without entourage or pride, she stared at him like a ghost from a life she had buried. The man who once disowned her now looked older, smaller, broken in places power could not fix. He knelt, not because she asked him to, but because guilt finally bent him. He apologized without excuses, without defense, confessing how his anger had blinded him, how shame had outweighed love, how every success afterwards tasted bitter without her. Akunna listened in silence, her children asleep beside her, living proof of how much life had happened without him. When she finally spoke, her voice did not tremble. She did not accuse. She simply said, "I survived without you."
Those words cut deeper than any insult. But survival had not erased longing. And forgiveness, when it finally came, was slow and deliberate. Reconciliation did not happen overnight. It unfolded over weeks of quiet conversations, therapy sessions, and long walks where past wounds were opened gently and allowed to breathe. Her father did not demand she return to wealth. He offered her choice. And for the first time in years, Akunna chose herself. She agreed to rebuild, not as a lost daughter, but as an equal. The world she re-entered did not recognize her name, but it would soon learn her influence. What Mike never knew was that the woman he discarded was now sitting at tables he would never be invited to, shaping futures with a mind sharpened by suffering and a heart armored by betrayal. The revenge did not begin with destruction. It began with elevation. Akunna refused to be hidden, pitied, or protected like fragile glass. Her father placed her where her brilliance belonged, inside the engine room of innovation. Her AI science degree, once ignored and buried under survival, became her weapon. She led silent projects, advised under pseudonyms, solved problems executives couldn't touch. Her ideas increased profits, optimized systems, and quietly redirected power. Meanwhile, Mike's career climbed exactly as planned, too smoothly, too confidently. Promotions came, invitations followed. His secretary became his fiancée. Society embraced him as a success story. He boasted about his independence, his escape from dead weight, and his rise through sheer hard work. Every step he took upward was carefully noted. Every contract he signed passed through invisible hands. Akunna did not sabotage him yet. No, she studied him. She watched his arrogance deepen, his ethics loosen, his loyalty evaporate. She observed how easily he cut corners, how greed whispered louder than caution. Her father warned her that revenge could consume her. Akunna smiled calmly and replied, "This is not revenge yet. This is preparation." She insisted on one rule: no lies, no illegal moves, no blood. Everything Mike would lose, he would lose by his own choices, amplified, exposed, and timed. When Akunna finally stepped into public spaces again, she did so transformed. Not flashy, not loud, just unmistakably powerful. Her posture changed, her silence commanded attention. People sensed depth they could not explain. Somewhere, fate tightened its grip with chilling precision. The trap was being built with patience, and Mike was walking into it willingly, blinded by ego and applause. The first crack appeared when Mike's company lost a major account, one he had taken credit for securing. He blamed market shifts. Then another deal stalled, then another. Behind the scenes, compliance reviews were triggered, not maliciously, but meticulously. Algorithms flagged inconsistencies. Audits uncovered questionable decisions Mike had made years earlier, small things he thought buried, overlooked because of favoritism and charm. The secretary turned fiancé began to panic. Social friends grew distant. Invitations slowed. Stress changed Mike's face, sharpened his temper. He came home angry, snapping at staff, accusing everyone of betrayal. He never once considered Akunna. To him, she was gone, erased, irrelevant. That was his greatest mistake. When Akunna finally stood in the same room with him again at a corporate event he attended reluctantly, he did not recognize her immediately.
She was introduced by a different name, seated among executives, listened to with respect. When realization dawned, it hit him like vertigo. The woman he once chased out with boxes was now out of reach, untouchable. Panic flickered in his eyes, quickly masked by forced laughter. Akunna did not confront him. She did not acknowledge him. She simply existed, calm, radiant, unmoved. That silence screamed louder than confrontation ever could. Mike went home that night shaken, haunted by the past he thought he had buried. His new life began to feel unstable, as though the ground itself had turned against him. He did not know that the same systems elevating others were now holding a mirror to his own corruption. As pressure mounted, Mike made the fatal error of arrogance. He tried to cut corners to save face. Desperation breeds recklessness. He signed deals without due diligence, manipulated reports, and leaned on old favors that no longer existed. The secretary saw the collapse coming and quietly distanced herself. Love built on convenience has no loyalty in crisis. Rumors spread, soft at first, then louder. Board members questioned him openly. Shareholders demanded explanations. The man who once felt untouchable now felt haunted. Meanwhile, Akunna watched from a distance, her emotions strangely calm. This was not joy, it was closure unfolding. Her father offered to end it swiftly, but Akunna shook her head. "Let him understand," she said. "Let him feel what it means to be abandoned by everything you trusted." When Mike was finally suspended pending investigation, society turned its back on him with shocking speed. The same people who praised his rise now whispered about his fall. Alone, angry, and confused, Mike began to drink heavily, blaming fate, enemies, even Akunna, though he could not explain how. The irony was merciless. His fall was happening inside the same corporate ecosystem that had once lifted him, the same system he believed he owned. And still, he did not know the full truth. He did not know whose daughter he had broken. He did not know whose mind had designed the maze he was lost in. The reveal was coming, but not yet. Akunna stood one evening on a balcony overlooking city lights, her children laughing behind her, her father beside her. She had reclaimed her name, her strength, and her future, but the final chapter was still unwritten. "Are you ready?" her father asked quietly. Akunna inhaled deeply. She thought of the nights she cried silently, the days she scrubbed floors while dreams suffocated, the moment she walked out with her children and nothing else. She nodded. "Yes," she said, "but we do it clean." What remained was not destruction, it was revelation. Mike would learn the truth, not through gossip or rumors, but through undeniable reality. The world would see him clearly. And he would see Akunna, not as a maid, not as an orphan, not as a burden, but as the woman who had outgrown him in every possible way. The summons arrived on a Monday morning, crisp and unavoidable. Mike was instructed to attend an emergency board meeting at the corporate headquarters, attendance mandatory, explanation withheld. By then, his world had shrunk to anxiety and whispers. His suspension had become public knowledge. Blogs speculated. Former allies avoided his calls. Even his own family, who once rode his success like a trophy, now spoke to him with thinly veiled panic. His mother prayed loudly but nervously. His sisters argued about who had jinxed the family. None of them suspected the truth. None of them imagined that the woman they once mocked for being poor, quiet, and useless was about to step into their lives like a reckoning. Mike arrived late, sweating despite the air-conditioned hall, his suit hanging on him like borrowed confidence. The room was filled, executives, legal teams, shareholders, and at the center table an elderly man whose presence commanded silence without effort. Mike had never met him before, but everyone knew the name whispered in corridors and printed in financial journals. Chief Chinedu Okori, founder and major owner of the Okore Global Consortium, an empire-spanning technology, oil, real estate, AI research and finance across 3 continents. Net worth 38 trillion naira. Mike's stomach tightened. This was not a man summoned lightly. And then she walked in. The room shifted when she appeared, not with drama, but with gravity. She wore a tailored suit the color of midnight, her hair pulled back elegantly, her face calm, her eyes steady. She did not rush. She did not look around nervously. She took her seat beside Chief Chinedu Okori as though she had always belonged there. Mike stared, confused, then horrified as recognition slammed into him. It was Akunna, but not the Akunna he knew. This woman carried authority like second skin. When the chairman cleared his throat and spoke, his voice was formal, reverential. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "before we proceed, allow me to formally introduce Dr. Zara Okori, Chief Innovation Strategist of Okori Global and my only daughter." The room murmured. Mike stopped breathing. Zara Okori, Dr. Zara Okori. The name echoed in his skull like a gunshot. His vision blurred. The chairman continued, explaining her academic brilliance, top graduate in AI science, international awards, patents quietly transforming industries. Mike's hands trembled. His family, seated at the back for moral support, froze. His mother's mouth fell open. His sisters clutched each other, eyes wide with terror. Zara turned then, not angrily, not smugly, but with devastating calm. Her eyes met Mike's for the first time. She smiled faintly.
"You knew me as Akunna. That name belonged to a woman who thought love was enough."
What followed was not chaos, but precision. The investigation results were presented, one by one, methodical, irrefutable. Ethical breaches, abuse of authority, misrepresentation. Every shortcut Mike had taken, every corner he had cut, laid bare under unforgiving light. Zara did not speak during most of it. She didn't need to. Her silence was louder than the accusation. When Mike tried to speak, his voice cracked. He never denied anything. He couldn't.
Sweat poured down his face as realization settled fully. The job that made him arrogant had come from her father's company. His rise had been built unknowingly on the foundation of the woman he destroyed. And now that same foundation was withdrawing its support. The board voted unanimously. Termination, legal action, blacklisting across partner firms. His career did not just end, it evaporated. Mike sank back into his chair, hollow, exposed, reduced. Zara finally stood. "I supported you when you had nothing," she said quietly. "I built you when you were empty. You didn't fall because of me. You fell because you believed I was nothing." Her father rose beside her, his voice firm with authority and restrained fury. "Any man who discards my daughter as disposable has no place in my world." The words were final. There would be no appeal. Outside the boardroom, Mike's family unraveled. His mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing loudly, begging for mercy she once denied another woman. His sisters cried openly, remembering every insult, every sneer, every time they called Akunna a liability. Now they understood. The orphan they despised was Zara Okori, heir to trillions. Mike stumbled toward her as she exited, desperation stripping him bare. "I didn't know," he whispered hoarsely. "If I had known." "If you had known," she said calmly, "you would have pretended better. That is not love. That is opportunism." She gestured toward her children, standing proudly behind her. "These are the only people who matter now." She walked away without looking back. No insults, no tears, just finality. Mike watched her go, the color completely drained from his face, his world collapsing in slow, irreversible motion. In that moment, he understood the true weight of what he had lost. Not money, not status, but a woman who once loved him with everything she had. Zara Okori reclaimed more than her name that day. She reclaimed her narrative. The media buzzed, society reeled. Women whispered her story like a quiet anthem of survival. She did not return to the shadows. She built platforms for women erased by marriage, silenced by poverty, broken by love. Her father stood proudly beside her, a man redeemed not by wealth, but by humility and action. Mike faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale told in boardrooms and living rooms alike, a man who mistook patience for weakness and humility for worthlessness. Zara never spoke of him again. She didn't need to. Her life became the answer. Thank you so much for listening till the end. If this story touched you, if it made you emotional, or if it taught you a lesson, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next powerful story. I'd also love to hear from you. What part of Akunna's story affected you the most? Do you believe Mike deserved what he got? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk. Until next time, stay blessed, and remember, not everyone who looks weak is powerless.